Well, Kaiser Johnson joins us via Skype to talk about his book, which shares ways to build strength, speed, endurance, and learn what it means to be physically and spiritually fit. Kaiser, thanks so much for being with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's my pleasure.
Where are you Skyping us from?
Los Angeles, California. Well, Marina Del Rey, California, actually.
So the weather's a little better out there than it is here, you're telling me.
Well, we've had some terrible storms too. It rained a little bit last night, and yeah, okay. You're right. It's a lot better. Right.
Well, your book comes out on the 15th. Is it meant for people who are into the gym and going to the gym, or is it for everybody?
You know, it's really meant for both people who are going to the gym and want to improve their spiritual life, and also for people who have a vibrant spiritual life and really want to improve their physical life and become a more integrated person, someone who's really living out their life in body and soul more fully.
Kaiser, it's great to have you back with us, and great to have this chance to talk to you. And I'm a guy who loves alliteration, so you got to tell me, what's this training trinity all about?
The training trinity, I think, is maybe the most is the thing that ties everything together. The training trinity is basically exercise, nutrition, and rest, and all three of those things. Not a single one of them works in isolation. If you exercise but you don't, rest or have proper nutrition, you have no ability to recover. And the same thing is true if you just rest and you don't train or eat properly. And the same thing is true if you just eat properly and you don't train or rest. None of them give your body what they need in isolation. They only work not as parts of a whole, but as one thing. And so the Training Trinity chapter, we talk all about how to take all of those things into your life and really live something that will both give you that vibrant physical life, but also let that affect where you're at spiritually and all that kind of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. What made you decide to write this book, Kaiser? I know clearly exercise is a big part of your life, as is spirituality, but what made you decide to put the two of them together?
There was a friend of mine, Kate O'Hara is her name, and she asked me a few years ago, she said, you do all this stuff here, does it as far as athleticism and that kind of thing, does it affect or does it play a part in spirituality, or how do you see spirituality through it? And it was something that I hadn't thought a lot about until that point. And then I started to delve into it, and I said, gosh, this is something that's really affecting everything in my life, and the way that I live my life, and the way that and my spirituality and my relationship with God affects my training in the gym and vice versa. And so trying to understand deeper what that connection was. And it's interesting because for a number of years now, I've had friends on one side and, who I train with and stuff like that, who are sort of fascinated by the spirituality in my life and Catholicism, and go, gosh, how do you live this way in the world here, and that kind of thing. And then people on the other side who are Catholic and see, what I do with races or, in the gym, and they go, this is fascinating. Why do you do this? How do you do this? And that kind of thing. I thought, boy, it's interesting that they're both asking questions about the opposite side of it. And in some ways, some people feel like it's unattainable, either from a Catholic perspective to be physically fit for some reason, or from a physically fit perspective to be Catholic or really deeply spiritual and religious. And so I thought, and then our Sunday visitor approached me and said, hey, would you have any interest in writing a book? And I said, yeah, and I know exactly what to write it on. So.
And, the title of the book, Grit and Glory, reminds me of the need for all of us to be both physically and spiritually fit. Isn't it true that those two are closely tied, importantly tied together?
I think that's absolutely true. You can look at just sort of on a very basic level that if, I remember one priest friend of mine advising me, he said, look, because grace builds on nature, get enough sleep every night and go to bed by midnight because nothing good happens after midnight. And I don't know that that's necessarily 100% accurate for everybody, but I think that it's true that we can't deny that the way that we live out our spiritual life and the way that we live out good action and good virtue in our life is through in and through our bodies. And so to live that out more fully means really respecting and caring for the union of body and soul that God has given us, because they're not really two separate things. They're one thing that we need to have in order to live an ordered life.
And for exercise, it's clear that you need to work hard. And we just saw some video of you working very hard, which was impressive. Yeah. But our spiritual life, you have to work hard too, right? Yes,
I mean on both of them, there's and that's something that we approach in, because the book's divided into 3 sections. We've got the concepts of, how do this major spiritual concepts in our life line up with the major concepts in physical fitness, and then breaking them down into basically some training in how to work out and how to let that affect your spiritual life and vice versa. And then the last portion is workouts. And in the workouts, there's some very hard stuff that we don't do, where there's a real point of God wanting to share intimacy with us in our suffering and share the suffering that he experienced, in the garden and on Calvary with us. And it's very easy as humans to run away from that. And we run into a real opportunity to dive into that, both in our physical training and also in our prayer life, where there are places that are very uncomfortable to go. One thing that we mentioned right in the first workout of the book is time in silence, where you don't have a rosary to do, you don't have scripture to read or that kind of thing. You've already done that, or you're doing that later, whatever the situation is, but you just have time in silence, and it can be a very challenging, very difficult, very scary place to be sometimes, for especially if you haven't tried it. And so, both in our physical lives and in our prayer lives, the Catechism talks about prayer as the constant battle of prayer is distraction, and so prayer is a battlefield, and so is our physical life and our life of virtue, and all of it's challenging, but it's a work worth doing.
Well, where can people get a copy of Grit and Glory, Kaiser?
They can go to osvcatholicbookstore.com. You can also pick it up at amazon.com and that kind of thing. And wherever you get it, we'd love to have reviews of it over on Amazon, but we hope to pick it up over at OSV Catholic Bookstore.
Thanks so much. Always a pleasure having you. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you. Same here.
God bless, Kaiser. Bye.